15 years after the global blackout, humanity struggles to survive in a world without electricity.
$80 million in the bank, and I would trade it all right now for a roll of Charmin.
Returning home from work earlier than expected, Ben Matheson urgently tells his wife to gather water, warning that they don't have much time. She realizes that the moment they've been waiting for is finally here and that only a few minutes remain. Immediately after, Ben calls his brother, Miles, warning him that electricity is about to disappear for good and that he needs to find a safe place. Before they can finish their conversation, the phone line goes dead, and household appliances begin to malfunction. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Miles slams on the brakes. He and his best friend, Base, are stunned by what's happening but know they must accept this new reality. Meanwhile, Ben manages to copy crucial data onto a drive hidden in a pendant, securing it for future use. He watches as planes fall from the sky and the world plunges into darkness, losing all the comforts of modern civilization. Electrical devices, the internet, and all modern technology become relics of the past. 15 years later, the world has become a harsh place. People lack proper medical care, fires burn unchecked, and hunger is widespread. Civilization seems to have crumbled, yet humanity has adapted to life without technology. Governments and traditional social structures have fallen, replaced by self-proclaimed leaders and the militias that back them. The Matheson family, like many others, has adjusted to this new reality, becoming part of a small village that survives through farming. Hunting has also become essential, with Ben's children, Charlie and Dany, taking on these expeditions. While exploring an old, abandoned bus, Charlie finds a refrigerator and wistfully recalls the last time she tasted ice cream. She then picks up a photograph of Chicago, once glowing with thousands of lights. Meanwhile, Dany searches for food but suffers an asthma attack, forcing the siblings to rush back home. Maggie, Ben's second wife and Dany's stepmother, does her best to care for him, administering his medication. Charlie, however, remains hostile toward Maggie, unable to accept her as a replacement for her biological mother. This tension sparks a family conflict as Ben urges Charlie to let go of Rachel's memory and move on. Frustrated, Charlie leaves for an abandoned amusement park, where she looks at old pictures of cities from before the blackout when electricity still existed. Soon after, Captain Tom Neville and his militia soldiers arrive in the village, acting on orders from General Sebastian Monroe. Sensing their intent, Ben discreetly hands the pendant with the hidden data drive to Aaron, a trusted friend. Captain Neville announces he's searching for Ben and his brother Miles, under direct orders from the general. Ben surrenders willingly, saying a quiet goodbye to Maggie as he prepares to leave. But Dany, unable to stand by, grabs a crossbow and demands the militia leave his family alone. The villagers, ready to defend the Mathesons, brace for a confrontation. Tensions rise rapidly, and one of the militia soldiers fires the first shot. In the ensuing chaos, several soldiers fall, but Captain Neville retaliates, taking down more villagers. Seeing that Ben is gravely injured and unlikely to survive, Neville orders Dany's arrest. Hearing the gunshots, Charlie rushes back to the village and finds her father bleeding out. With his last breath, Ben pleads with Charlie to save her younger brother by finding her uncle Miles, who's in Chicago. Determined to honor her father's dying wish, Charlie quickly gathers her belongings and prepares for the journey. Despite their frequent clashes, Maggie decides to join her, driven by her love for Ben and her commitment to his children. Aaron, keeping silent about the pendant, also joins them in memory of his late friend. Later, Captain Neville makes camp for the night and sends a messenger to General Monroe to report the incident. He tells Dany that he didn't want the bloodshed but had no choice other than to take him prisoner, needing to deliver at least one member of the Matheson family to Monroe. On their way to Chicago, Charlie encounters a young archer named Nate. Not long after, the group stumbles upon an old airplane that only Aaron recognizes, recalling his days as a millionaire working for Google. That night, they are ambushed by 3 thugs intent on robbing them and attacking Charlie. Maggie manages to poison 2 of them with a drugged drink, while Nate takes down the third attacker, proving his loyalty and joining their group. Meanwhile, Dany seizes an opportunity to escape by breaking the pipe he's cuffed to. When a guard hears the noise and approaches, Dany knocks him out and flees, finding refuge in a nearby village. He collapses from another asthma attack but later wakes up in a bed belonging to a woman named Grace. She gives him medication and promises to keep him hidden. A few hours later, Tom Neville arrives at her doorstep and questions her. Though Grace insists no one else is in her house, Tom's sharp instincts and past as an insurance agent make him suspicious. He points out evidence of her deceit, and reluctantly, Grace allows Tom to take Dany back into custody. Charlie's group of 4 reaches Chicago and arrives at a hotel that has been converted into a bar. They ask the bartender for help in locating Miles. When Miles realizes that Charlie is Ben's daughter, he reveals his identity and pulls her aside for a private conversation. He explains that General Monroe wants to capture them to discover the cause of the event that shut down the electricity. If Monroe regains control of the power, he'll eliminate the remaining self-proclaimed rulers and seize control of the world. Despite the gravity of the situation, Miles refuses to help Charlie rescue her brother, warning her that it's a trap. Moments later, he confronts Nate and exposes him as a militia spy. Realizing that a squad of soldiers will soon arrive, he urges Charlie, Maggie, and Aaron to leave Chicago immediately. As expected, 24 soldiers soon arrive at the bar, ready to search every inch of the place. Instead of fleeing, Miles gives them a chance to walk away unharmed, but the militia merely laughs at his desperate offer. Engaging in the fight, Miles reveals himself to be far more skilled and experienced than his opponents. He swiftly takes down most of the soldiers, and soon, Charlie, Maggie, and Aaron return to join the fray. They manage to distract a few soldiers, handling them on their own. At one point, Charlie finds herself in a tight spot, but Nate steps in to save her, dispatching the soldier who attacked her. Witnessing their impressive teamwork and unwavering determination, Miles changes his mind and agrees to help rescue Dany, realizing that General Monroe is actually his old friend Base. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Grace possesses a pendant similar to Ben's, which she uses to power a computer. With it, she establishes contact with others who share her knowledge and objectives. Miles, Charlie, Maggie, and Aaron set out on their journey but soon come under attack from a ruthless bounty hunter. Miles manages to overpower the man and prepares to execute him, but Charlie convinces him to spare the hunter's life. Taking her advice, he locks the bounty hunter in a train car and sets off to find an old friend, Nora Clayton. They soon arrive in Pontiac, unaware that Nate is still trailing them. Charlie reminds Miles that her brother is being held captive and needs help, but Miles insists he needs Nora's assistance and won't proceed without her. After silencing his niece and asking her to stay behind, Miles heads to a casino to gather information on Nora's whereabouts. It's there that the bounty hunter finds him, having broken every bone in his hands to escape his trap and recapture him. The hunter's men have taken Charlie and the others hostage to blackmail Miles into surrendering. He pretends that they are mere acquaintances but refuses to let them execute his niece, ultimately giving himself up. Not wanting to confront General Monroe as a prisoner, Miles starts a desperate fight, taking out soldiers and the bounty hunter in the process. Meanwhile, the militia, led by the captain, continues its march toward General Monroe's headquarters. Hearing gunfire, they discover the bounty hunter's home, where he has caught a deer. According to the Republic's laws, only militia members are allowed to possess firearms, so Tom confronts the hunter and demands he hand over his rifle. The soldiers plan to search for any remaining weapons, but the hunter opens fire, wounding one of them. Tom executes the offender and helps the injured soldier die with dignity. During the funeral, Dany mocks the captain, pointing out that while Tom pretends to show humanity, he is, in fact, a ruthless psycho who relishes causing pain. That evening, Miles and his group stop for the night. After freeing himself from his handcuffs, he informs the others that he needs to work alone. He has learned that Nora is in captivity and plans to rescue her. Since this mission is too dangerous, he instructs the rest to head to Indiana and wait for him there, promising to reunite in 2 weeks. The next morning, Maggie and Aaron discover that Charlie has followed Miles, leaving them a note. Lost in the woods, Charlie falls from a height and injures her leg. Nate, who has been trailing her, tries to help, but it turns out Charlie has faked her injury to trap him. She cuffs him to a table and runs off to catch up with her uncle. Miles is hesitant to put her in danger but recognizes that Charlie is willing to do whatever it takes to save her brother. Maggie reveals that she keeps a mobile phone as a keepsake of her children. She's starting to forget what they look like but holds on to hope that one day electricity will return, allowing her to see their faces again. Meanwhile, Aaron discusses the pendant and recalls Ben's last words. The former programmer speculates that the power outage was a deliberate act by people and suggests there might be a way to restore the lost benefits of civilization, but for that, they need to find Mrs. Grace. At that moment, Randall breaks into Grace's home. She powers up her computer, trying to connect with her allies, but the bounty hunter heads to the attic with a similar pendant, preparing to attack her. Miles and Charlie locate Nora, along with captives being forced to haul a helicopter under armed guard. They can't attack because one of the guards is armed with a deadly sniper rifle, leaving Miles feeling powerless. That night, he sneaks into the camp and helps Nora escape, only to discover that she allowed herself to be captured to steal the rifle and sell it on the black market. Nora agrees to assist Miles in attacking General Monroe's base, but first, he must help her. Someone needs to return to the camp and shoot the guard, and the only one who can get close is Charlie, who can pose as a lost teenager. Before they set out, Charlie reflects on the events from 15 years ago. While gathering food and supplies, her family was attacked. A starving man threatened to steal their food. Ben couldn't pull the trigger, but his wife executed the thief, knowing they would otherwise starve. Sticking to the plan, Charlie uses a makeshift pistol and shoots the guard with a powerful sniper rifle. Miles and Nora launch their attack, taking out the remaining guards and freeing the captives. Upon noticing a tattoo of the United States, Miles realizes Nora has deceived him. She has joined the rebels who aspire to restore the forgotten old country. At General Monroe's headquarters, a sergeant tortures a rebel to learn the location of their base. Monroe decides to get involved, feigning kindness toward the captive. He is attentive and courteous, but when he receives no answers, he executes the rebel. Later, Monroe heads to a room where Charlie and Dany's mother is being held. It turns out she is alive but imprisoned by the general to extract the secret behind the power outage. He informs her that Ben has passed away, Enraged, Rachel attacks Monroe in a failed attempt at revenge. Miles urges Nora not to return to the rebels and to keep the rifle for herself to fight General Monroe's men. However, she remains adamant about her desire to change the world order and restore the United States. Soon, Miles, Nora, and Charlie arrive at the rebel camp and hand over the rifle. Inside the shelter, they see many wounded soldiers bleeding out after a recent raid. The rebels had attempted to ambush a convoy of militia but fell into a trap, resulting in the loss of 12 men. Charlie tries to save one of the injured, but he dies in her arms. Despite Miles's pleas, she and Nora decide to stay and help the others. Miles understands that the militia has a hostage, which means they will learn about the rebel camp and come for them at any moment. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers mocks Dany, who had executed the soldier's best friend in the village. The soldier refuses to give the prisoner water and provokes him into a conflict. Dany appeals to the captain, knowing he is needed alive. That night, the captain leaves for another settlement, and the soldier continues to torment Dany, beating him mercilessly in a fit of revenge. In the morning, the soldier tries to attack Dany again, but Dany manages to outsmart him and close the distance. He could strangle the soldier but spares him upon hearing the captain returning to camp. At the same time, Jeremy, the leader of the militia group, interrogates a prisoner. He plays Russian roulette with the man, forcing the rebel to reveal the location of their camp. Despite the confession, Jeremy executes the prisoner and orders the brutal elimination of anyone who stands in their way. The militia tends to the wounded and prepares to move out, but they soon surround the building and begin firing at it. Realizing they are trapped, Miles sends a sniper to the roof with a rifle, instructing him to shoot anyone who approaches. The sniper successfully takes out several soldiers, halting their advance. Meanwhile, Miles searches for an alternative escape route and suggests digging a tunnel. To expedite the process, Charlie and Nora create small explosive devices. As night falls, the militia continues to surround the building, showing no signs of retreating or surrendering. Jeremy recognizes that bullets are a precious resource in this world and that they will eventually run out. He sacrifices soldiers by ordering them to run under the sniper's fire as living targets, hastening their inevitable demise and the militia's invasion of the rebel camp. Nora confesses that she believes in the rebels' cause because she once lost a child to the militia and seeks revenge. At one point, the tunnel collapses, and the ammunition runs out, allowing the militia to break into the building. In the ensuing unequal battle, they manage to capture Jeremy and lock themselves in one of the rooms. There, the rebel group learns that Miles was a founder of Monroe's Republic, alongside Base. He was the leader of the army and trained them before he left. In the morning, Miles proposes an exchange. He will surrender to Jeremy in return for sparing the surviving rebels. The plan unfolds as expected, but Charlie and Nora set a tripwire on the bridge, eliminating several soldiers. Amid the chaos, they launch an attack on the remaining militia members and successfully rescue Miles. As they flee from the disoriented soldiers, they blow up the bridge, preventing Jeremy and the others from pursuing them. As these events unfold, Miles reflects on how he met Jeremy 15 years ago. After the power outage, he and Base, both soldiers, left their posts and entered a devastated world. They witnessed chaos, lawlessness, and crime, struggling to comprehend how humanity had devolved into ruthless beasts so quickly. One day, Miles stumbled upon a family that had been executed for their food and realized this cycle of violence could not continue. When he encountered two men beating a third for food, he executed them, saving Jeremy's life in the process. Meanwhile, Aaron and Maggie set out to find Grace and soon locate her house. Upon entering, they sense something is amiss and realize it's extremely dangerous to stay there. While exploring, Aaron discovers various electrical devices and decides to remain behind to investigate. In the attic, he finds a computer but cannot understand why Grace would collect it in a world without electricity or the internet. Throughout the night, Aaron struggles to figure out how Grace used the computer, but he makes little progress. Once a respected and wealthy computer genius, he falls into deep despair as he grapples with the harsh reality of his new life. After the power outage, he has lost everything and fears for his safety, feeling increasingly vulnerable against the ruthless soldiers. At a pivotal moment, Aaron and Maggie notice that the pendant activates, bringing electricity to the house. They manage to listen to music and glimpse photos of Grace's children, but the power quickly vanishes again. The causes and mechanisms behind the pendant's function remain a mystery, but this brief return of electricity fills them with hope that they might be able to restore the world they once knew. In the world of Revolution, where a sudden power outage has led to the collapse of civilization, people are forced to survive without familiar technologies. How does this technological collapse change human nature and behavior? Is brutality and dictatorship inevitable under such conditions, or is it possible to create a new, more just society? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.